So the Together We Read project is a collaboration between Rotary and Bellreg specifically with Save the Children. It began back in 2018 as a way of reaching out and doing community mobilization, working with Rotary clubs. At that point, there were 10 districts throughout the United States that were identified as community partners. And it was really started as an experiment. One, to see if this was a viable partnership, and then two, to work together to address the early learning gap that is evident in many of our communities. So the idea was to look at early learning, look at the work that Save the Children does and their resources and their expertise, and then look at the volunteers and the support that Rotary has to offer and the outreach into the community to really expand our reach for both organizations and see what collaboration and what synergy we could develop by working together. We've expanded the program since then and we've done a number of different things. The first summer that we were locked down for COVID, we did a nice project where we recorded stories, Rotarians and other individuals reading stories, and we put them up on the web so that people could, parents could access stories for their kids when we were all cooped up with children in the house and we weren't able to leave. And then this has also grown to then the wonderful grants that Save the Children has provided for some Rotary projects. We did one summer of summer reading programs where Rotary projects collaborated with local libraries to keep kids reading, especially after the learning loss that occurred with school closures. We had summer reading programs in many of the communities, and those were small grants that were enabling Rotarians to reach out to their communities and keep kids reading. Go ahead, Tamsin. Oh, next. So the grant recipients, we've had 2 rounds of grants. The first ones were $10,000 grants for Rotary projects to work with community partners, to support innovative partnerships to increase access to quality books, improve the awareness of the importance of early literacy, and to strengthen support for early learners and their families. And quite honestly, that was one of the things that really drew me toward to working with Save the Children and wanting to partner with them more, because it was this connection with families and really providing support for families so that moms and dads and grandparents and aunts and uncles know how to work with children to support that early literacy. The first year that we did the grants, they were $10,000 grants, and you can see the list of projects. There were 11 projects around the country that were supported. And this current year, we had 10 projects that were supported financially. And again, a nice cross section from across the country, and they were $15,000 grants that were supported this current year, and we're going to hear from 3 of them.
Thanks so much for that fantastic overview, Carolyn. One of the, let me check that you can see me. Yes. Am I coming through? Okay, yes, just wanted to make sure. So as Carolyn mentioned, this partnership, it just makes so much sense. You saw the statistics on the slide a couple of slides back. Children who are living in poverty at the age of 3 tend to know a third or less than half of the words of their peers. They often start school behind, not ready to thrive on the first day of school, and they very rarely catch up if there are not interventions. We recognize the hard work of our school systems and our teachers who work so tirelessly to support children and families. But Save the Children, in our work that we do in community impact, we're really about the community has a role to play in this as well. And we know that there are community leaders who want to support this work. And one of the really great reasons that it makes so much sense for Save the Children to partner with Rotary is we Save the Children brings over 100 years of expertise in early learning and healthy development, specifically in rural, high poverty communities across the US. And Rotary brings that expertise of how to plan and mobilize local leaders and connect local leaders to increase that local investment in early learning. So it's a match made in heaven. I'm so pleased to introduce 3 of our grant recipients to speak on their projects this year. The common theme that you're going to see across all of them is just the tremendous number of community partners that came together to make the work happen. The focus on kind of a 2-generation approach, supporting families and caregivers as well as the children. And some of the, what might be considered non-traditional education partners like local businesses or healthcare providers. It's not always a school system or a library, although we know that they are certainly very valuable partners as well. So we're going to have William Richter from the Manhattan Rotary Club in Manhattan, Kansas, Carol Grimm and Jeff Hardwick from International Falls Rotary Club in Minnesota, and Patty Lodowicz from the Carroll County Youth Literacy Rotary Foundation in Carroll County, Arkansas. And first up, we've got Professor Richter to speak on his project.
Thank you very much, Tamsin. I want to mention also that Stephen Graham and Rebecca Gould from our club and from the project are on the call as well. So any mistakes I make, they are welcome to correct. I also want to echo Carolyn's comments in appreciation of Save the Children and of BellRag for having had a tremendously positive impact on the communities of our part of Kansas through the grant support that you've provided. It has been just a tremendous learning experience for us, as well as for the more direct beneficiaries of the books and other materials that we've been able to provide. What I want to do in the few minutes that we have is just simply provide an overview of the project as we designed it and as it has evolved, and comment a bit upon the benefits. It is, as the slide indicates, multidimensional. We originally, 2 years ago, as we set out to design something in response to the call for proposals, we decided that we wanted to have multiple pieces to it, and we designed three components: support for the development of Dolly Parton's Imagination Library in the area served by our local United Way office, the Kanza United Way, which serves 6 counties. So our original program was for 6 counties. We wanted to support public libraries and their early learning programs. And we already had a program with a local used bookstore. And so we wanted to provide gift certificates to families with young children to get books at that bookstore. Very quickly, we ended up with a 4th component because we were offered about 7 pallets of books, about $125,000 worth of new books that had originally come to a Rotary Club in elsewhere in Kansas, but was offered to us, and originally come from Feed the Children, another nonprofit organization. And to them, it had come from Disney. So we often referred to them as Disney books. But we have distributed thousands of books throughout our project area. In year 2, we continued with an emphasis upon Dolly Parton's Imagination Library, upon support for libraries within our service area, but also along with the libraries, decided to initiate some community conversations on what early learning needs might be in our area. this developed out of some comments that some of our partners had made, asking, for instance, why they didn't have Head Start in their county. And so the part of our library program this past year was support for a project that involves some conversations on community conversations in our counties. In place of the used bookstore project this year, we offered a set of mini grants, and many of the mini grant recipients were child care providers. So this really developed a whole new dimension of partners within our partnership. And then we have continued the free books program, but the free books program has actually evolved into a community project within our area called Community Cares Chest, in which under the leadership of our United Way and our Rotary Club and some others, everything from lemonade to health goods and so forth that we receive free of charge through this arrangement that originally was just books. These are all distributed to dozens of nonprofit organizations within our area. I'm taking more time on this than I intended, so I'm going to move right along. When talking about partnership, we realized early on that we needed to talk to people who already were involved with early childhood learning. One of the first people we contacted was someone I didn't know at the time named Jennifer Francois, director of the Kansas Institute for Early Childhood Education and Research. Jennifer not only became involved in our project, but she soon became a Rotarian and now chairs the Basic Education Literacy Committee within our club. And she was also the lead of our project this past year. Andy Hutchinson, an early childhood professional with USD 383, our local school district, is now the president of the Kansa Rotary Club, a separate club from ours, but also in Manhattan. And Tara Clausen, the CEO of Kansa United Way and director of Dolly Parton Imagination Library for these 6 counties, as I mentioned earlier. Our partners then have included DPIL coordinators, including United Way directors, school systems, especially Head Start, parents as teachers and other early educators, librarians, community foundations, businesses like used bookstores, child care providers, and of course, Rotary clubs. We originally started with 6 counties, as I mentioned, but this past year, we expanded that to the 12 counties served by the North Central Kansas Library System, which has been one of our major partners in connecting us to libraries throughout the area. Essentially, we run from the Nebraska border about 2/3 of the way to Oklahoma, and Manhattan is 100 miles or so west of Kansas City, 100 miles or so south of Lincoln, Nebraska. And we're right about in the middle of this group of 12 counties, 2 counties wide and 6 counties north to south, essentially. I mentioned opportunities and capacity building, and I've already mentioned how having the grant really made us open to accepting these free books that came from the Overland Park Rotary Club and has expanded into the Community Cares Chest. So as we have proceeded with the project, it's been a continuing learning experience for us, at least for me, and an exciting operation. Page 2, before we leave page 1, I want to indicate that one of our partners, I mentioned DPIL coordinators, in the photo on page 1, Steve Graham is on the left, I'm on the right, and the person in the middle is Mickey Edwards, who is she's this year the president of the Emporia Rotary Club, about 70 miles south of Manhattan. But she is also the CEO of the United Way of the Flint Hills, which coordinates Dolly Parton's Imagination Library in about 8 counties, 3 of which are in our 12-county region. So Stephen and I in this picture last spring are presenting a check for $1,000 to that United Way to develop their Dolly Parton program. So what has the impact been? Well, on children and families, I don't have the numbers. I think Jennifer probably does, and I'm sorry that she was unable to make this presentation today because she was much more on top of this project this past year than I was. But we've certainly assisted in what has been a statewide development of Dolly Parton's Imagination Library. There is now in every county in the state someone responsible for developing DPIL, and so this year we had 5 directors in our 12 county region, each of whom received $1,000 from our grant in support of that program. So if you do the math, you can calculate the numbers per student if they were doing them for memberships. The library reading programs have been assisted getting books into families of small children, assisting child care providers, even assisting pediatricians and other medical doctors to let young children and their families know about the availability of books in, for instance, in library early reading programs and programs of reading to children has had impact. Beyond that, though, there has been an impact on the communities, both within and beyond our 12 county region. I included a brief quote at the bottom from the small town of Harrington, Kansas, simply saying thanks for providing this opportunity to our communities. In our first year, Stephen and I delivered a batch of books, a couple of boxes.
I think Bill might have frozen. Is he frozen for others as well? Okay.
Yes, he is.
Okay.
And
We'll give him maybe a moment to see if he's able to rejoin. But I will just quickly apologize for the tech issues earlier. I don't know what I hit, but I hit something. So we'll see. Okay. Maybe we will, oh, because it looks like he's dropped off the call. So maybe we'll go ahead and move forward, and when Bill is able to rejoin us, then he can continue with his presentation, because their impact and their reach and their growth has been very impressive. But for the time being, until Bill's able to join us, why don't we move on to Carol and Jeff to talk about the Love of Reading Early initiative from International Falls, Minnesota.
Hello, Carol Grimm from International Falls, Minnesota, and we are in northern Minnesota up on the Canadian border, where we are 100 miles from the next community of the same or larger size. So we're remote, rural, and there is poverty here. I'm going to turn it over to my fellow Rotarian, Jeff Hardwig.
I don't know if I'm centered. I can't see my image.
You go closer.
Okay, all right. So thank you to the Save the Children grantors. They've really been a shot in the arm for our project. So Love of Reading Early, LOR for short, has been a project in our Rotary Club since 2016, and it's our intention to continue this indefinitely. Our program was collaborative at the very start. While we were still in the planning stage for this project, we gathered a group of 16 professionals in our community, which included a family physician, a school superintendent, a principal, and a host of various early childhood teachers. And they helped us define what this grant would be. From the very start, our mission was to our vision, in fact, it was very aspirational, a community in which every child is read to from birth through the critical period of language acquisition, 0 to 5, which this group I'm sure is aware of. The reading proficiency by the 3rd grade is a leading indicator of high school graduation and career success. That's from the American Academy of Pediatrics in their policy statement 2014. And yet, 1 in 3 children arrive at kindergarten without the language skills they're going to need to learn how to read. And by 3rd grade, 2 out of 3 American children have not reached reading proficiency. And it's worse if they come from poverty. 4 out of 5 have not reached reading proficiency. Those facts really are the basis for why we're doing this program. It is our goal to have some kind of an impact on those statistics. And the money from the Save the Children grant was used to enhance our efforts to create a literature-rich home library and community where the child, wherever they or their parents went, every week they would run into access to free books. I must say that in the span of 1 year, the Save the Children grant did what it would take our club 8 years to do, based on the funding we have available year to year for this project. So we're enormously grateful for that. We partnered with local clinics to implement Reach Out and Read. Before 2016, our clinics did not practice this. So our role mainly there was advocacy. But this year we were able to help them with the purchase of books. We boosted awareness and participation in Dolly Parton's Imagination Library, largely through the partnerships we made in the community to make sure, public health tries to get these kids signed up at birth. And when they go to the Reach Out and Read clinic, if they haven't already been signed up, they get signed up there. So everyone's on the same page, get them signed up early. We wanted to increase access to book by establishing community libraries. It's called a lore library, a love of reading early library. It operates like a little free library, but don't say that because that's a registered trademark. They're love of reading early libraries and they contain only children's books. And we have 9 of them and they're strategically located. That is, they are where the children most in need are located. They're at Head Start, they're at the food shelf, they're at public health, social services, they're at a community center, at the medical clinics, and at grocery stores. Everybody has to eat. So they can't go anywhere in town without running into a free book. And they can keep those books until they're all done with them. Carol and I were once part of a group of 8 Rotarians who went into the schools and read to pre-K and kindergarten students. We get invited back every year. We've got a thick folder of thank yous from the teachers. The kids love it, and I recommend reading to children as a volunteer effort because it's so rewarding and fun. Kids are a hoot, and they just love to be read to, I promise you.
Books for
Yes.
childcare.
Yes, we have 18 licensed daycare homes or centers, 2 centers in town, and they each got 20 books each from money from the Save the Children grant to either enhance their in-house children's library or to begin one. And that reaches a set of kids that we've been maybe having a hard time reaching otherwise.
Yes.
And we've, yeah. So that is that slide.
There we go.
Yeah. So the outcome is that we, although the medical clinics incorporate book purchases in their budgets. We wanted to incentivize their continued participation in Reach Out and Read. The grant paid for a year's worth of books at each one of the clinics. We, our partner with United Way, received a year's worth of it's a very expensive proposition to buy books for every child in our community, a book a month for 12 months of the year. And they received a full year's worth of support. So they'll continue providing books to Coochin County. And we're grateful for that. I've heard rumblings that maybe they were going to cut back on this. They were so expensive, they couldn't afford it. And this breathed new life into the Imagination Library for our small town. We have 9 lower libraries. I mentioned previously where they're placed. They are delightfully painted by local artists. In fact, we had an art display at the local library showing off the work. They're really cute and attractive. If you're a kid, you go right to one. And that captured a local benefactor who became so inspired by what we were doing that he started to buy books for our club to give to children to put in the lower libraries. So that certainly paid off. Yeah, so we still have Rotary readers, not as many as we'd like. And we stocked libraries in 19 daycare centers. So we counted 41 partners. We're not going to read them all off, but we couldn't do this without collaborators, because much of what we're doing is advocacy and other people are doing the heavy lifting. Our project does not try to replace parents or teachers, but we try to to enhance the very good work of our local teachers and parents. So that's kind of the long and short of it. Carol, what am I missing?
Oh, I just want to mention that the photo with the 6 people lined up and all the books in boxes, those are books that went to the early intervention teachers, and they work in the home with children with disabilities or some kind of condition that gives them a disadvantage in terms of starting school. And they were thrilled. And the woman second from my left, looking at the screen, it was her birthday. She said, "This is the best birthday present I've ever had." It was kind of fun to deliver those that day.
Thank you for pointing that out, Carol, because that is another group of kids that's hard to reach. Sometimes people in poverty, they're not going to let you in the home to read to their kids there. It's hard to get at the kids, but she gets to go into the homes. Many of the homes are children in poverty, and she gives them books and reads to them. And it's just it's a great partnership to have. And we didn't have that partnership before the Save the Children grant. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
I love it. I could just listen to you talk about this all day. And I will, I had to cut some of the slides that Carol and Jim had sent me for time. We consolidated some of the information. But Jim, would you like to just share maybe with the group? There was on one of the slides, there was an approximate number of books that you had distributed through this initiative. Would you like to share that with the group?
I'm Jeff.
Oh, who did I say?
Jim?
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Okay,
Jeff,
but you
I'm
are
so
talking about
sorry.
me. Yes, 2,200 books.
2,200 books.
Yeah,
I
so like I was saying, with the money that our small club, we are small, our whole town only has 6,000 people. It would take us 8 years to supply that many books to our community. So it's a huge shot in the arm for what we're trying to do and help move us towards our goal of a literature-rich environment.
Yeah.
Books everywhere. So I think we're just about there.
Thank you so much. And I love I will also share that the 2 exclamation points after the 41 community partners, I added that. That was my touch, because I saw that and I thought, oh my gosh, we need to emphasize that. That's amazing. And not only the number, but also the broad representation of sectors, like you said, just folks from all over just really pitching in, from artists to churches to teachers to Head Start to food pantry. So just really amazing. I also love how you had mentioned reaching families where they are. And so don't not making them come to you like where they are. They're at the grocery store, they're at the pediatrician's or the clinic, they're at they're out at maybe a park or the community center where you've established one of these lore libraries. And so that just seems like such a common sense way to reach children and families who, like Jeff has said, are difficult to reach otherwise. So thank you all so much.
I just want to make one more comment. This grew in part because the science supporting it is so strong. And it's like feeding hungry people. People get it, that it's just so important to read to children early when language is being downloaded in their growing brains. So thanks.
Yeah. I'm going to do a quick check to see. I know that Bill had gotten kicked off the call. Has he been able to join us, or would anyone from his club like to pick up where he had left off? I know that the work you guys have done has been so tremendous, and the impact has been so far reaching. I hate for that presentation to be cut short. So is there anyone from the Manhattan Rotary Club who could maybe step in to finish Bill's presentation if he hasn't been able to join us again?
This is Rebecca, and he was
I'm back
Bill.
on, I think.
Here's Bill.
I hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Wonderful.
My apologies to everyone. I was talking away and my screen went blank, and so I had to restart the whole computer, and it may happen again. But have you already had the other presentations?
We've had one. We just heard about the Fantastic Lore Initiative, and I wanted to allow you to give you an opportunity to finish the Manhattan Rotary Club, because I know you were bringing it home, and so I wanted to give you an opportunity to finish up before we move on to Peggy to talk about the Carroll County Youth Literacy Initiative.
Well, I was talking about the benefits to and the impact of your grants, and I mentioned that the impact on children and families, but also on the communities. Especially small communities, rural communities throughout this 12-county region. Some of these communities, we have one area, Potawatomi, Wabunsee counties, in which there is a regional library that has branches in very small towns. And we've distributed books through that regional library to these branches for their reading program. So it's just the spread of what has been accomplished with your support has been tremendous. And then there's been the impact on Rotarians and Rotary clubs and districts. There's been enhanced opportunities for Rotary volunteers. As Rebecca and Stephen can tell you, we have a lot of our Rotarians now help out with the Community Cares Chest on every Wednesday, distributing goods not just to nonprofits that serve children, but to any nonprofits within the community. There's been enhanced cooperation among Rotary clubs. There's been enhanced cooperation between districts. District 5710 has appointed last year co-chairs for basic education literacy for the first time in my knowledge of the district and in the 42 years that I've been a Rotarian. And some of the books that we distributed this past year, thanks to communication with District 5680, which covers most of the rest of the state of Kansas, many of those books went to Russell, Kansas, Sharon Springs, Kansas, which is right out on the Colorado border, at least 10 different communities, many of them very small communities within the state. And so my expectation is that the seeds that have been planted as a result of Save the Children's generosity and the encouragement of BellRag and others will continue bearing fruit for many years to come. So that essentially, oh, and then I'll mention that the photograph that accompanies this slide is from one of the child care providers who received one of our mini grants this past year. So it, as I mentioned, it's been an exciting project. It's been, I think, as much a learning experience for many of us as it has been for the children themselves. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill. And thank you for hanging in there and overcoming technology and technical
Well,
issues.
I hope Stephen conveyed my apologies, because I phoned him as soon as I couldn't get back on and asked him to share with you what had happened.
He did, and thank you very
Good.
much. No apology needed. But I will just say one thing here as I move over, and now you're going to hear from Peggy in Carroll County, Arkansas, and her fantastic project. Thank you all so much for really appreciative of how much credit you're giving Save the Children for this work. But it has to be like, we provided some funding and some technical assistance. You all brought the leadership. You all brought the implementation and the design and the vision. And so you all made this happen. And so as appreciative as we are, it couldn't happen. And that's why I think the partnership is as valuable as it is. This could not have happened.
But it wouldn't have
without
happened.
you
And
know.
it wouldn't have happened without the stimulus that you folks provided, the
All right.
catalyst.
I'll take it. I'll take
Thank
that.
you.
I'll let
Great.
you say that. Okay. All right. Now you're going to hear from Peggy in Carroll. I started to say Carroll in Carroll County. I thought it was going to be the Carroll County Carol and Carol Grimm but apparently no, it was Jeff and Jim. But anyway, Peggy, take it away.
Thank you. Of Carroll County's 1,100 households, 27% earn below federal poverty level. That means 48% of our children live in poverty. Another 27 are ALICE, or the asset limited, income constrained, but employed. So that's 54% of our children are poor. There are 5 languages. There's English, Spanish, Marshallese, Karen, and Hmong. And within that, there are 11 different dialects and multiple cultures. So as our project implies increasing awareness and importance of literacy from birth to grade 3, required us 5 implement programs. One was the Dolly Parton Imagination Library, which you all know. And we're noticing that English as a second language, adults are using these books. Our second prong was local educational partners for K through grade 3 book selections. Our surveys reported that children age 4 and 5 wanted more books than just the one they received from Dolly Parton. And it was critical to make the reading more meaningful and elevating the reading comprehension. So we relied on experts to choose these books. They were Bob books with phonics, bilingual books, and large print books to make it easier for the children to read. We shipped over 9,000 books under this grant, which we thank you, and our parents thank you. The third prong was traditional and social media interaction. And of course, interaction was the key word. Personal interviews, phone calls, public appearances, newspaper, Facebook posts, trade outs for repeat coverages. We kept the importance and the availability of all these books in front of the population and in various languages. The fourth part was an enhanced presence of the community events, bigger banners, professional layout, distribution of the age-appropriate books, and the forms in various languages, all supported by this grant. Without the grant, we couldn't communicate with all these different people. The fifth aspect was donor and volunteer interaction. Again, interaction, the key word, asking and implementing their suggestions and showing appreciation, providing the various updates. Next slide, please. Slide. Thank you. This one shows that the continued impact If you double the last 3 months results for comparison to the 6 months where we had our final report, you'll notice the categories are 50% higher, reflecting continued improvement. Our libraries outside our area are requesting interlibrary loans of the books that we bought under this grant. So it's providing the pamphlets also have a sticker on them that have the logos of Rotary, Save the Children, and Imagination Library. So all the people getting all these books are seeing the results of your support for us. Thus, the 3 Rotary Save the Children grant starts the ball rolling, and it continues to roll. We have 3 different Rotaries in joint venture on this project. And a surprising additional impact is 2 of the city mayors requested us to resurrect the Carroll County Adult Literacy Council, and we're working with Nancy Leonhardt to form that, as 28% of our adults cannot read in English or their native language. So we thank Rotary, Save the Children, because they started the ball and then they keep it rolling. Our next slide will show some of our partners that we are so appreciative of. There isn't a school, business, church, nonprofit organization, library, government agency, post office, and most individuals that we haven't incorporated into registering the children via phone calls, offer to make presentations, short asks, and attached is a fact sheet that show them the impact. This led to peer-to-peer fundraising. Got a Hole Brewery now gives us 1% of all the profits on their pumps for the entire year. The 31st annual Volkswagen convention held an auction and made a separate donation. There was 3,500 cars that began to know about Rotary, about Save the Children, and about Imagination Library. We established sponsor banners 10-foot tall with logos depicting the size of their donation. Again, these were businesses that hadn't known about this and now know about Rotary, Save the Children, and Imagination Library. Our newest partners are the high school seniors. As you may know, they must provide 75 service hours before they graduate under the LEARNS Act. So now they're helping us in reading with the children, delivering the books, and also in registering. We'd always worked with the juvenile probation officers for the community service also. So these are wonderful partners that are now knowing more about Rotary and about Save the Children, the International. And we can't thank you enough.
Peggy, thank you so much. I love the very clear demonstrated focus on diversity and equity inclusion there. Like you mentioned the large print, which can be, help children who, I don't know why I'm giving myself a thumbs up there, but can help children who have some difficulty seeing. You mentioned too, like, I love the focus on ensuring that the language, the family's first language is available to them to really help them feel welcome and part of this initiative. So just
so hard
really
to read.
Job. Yes.
It's so hard to read in English when your parents can't even read Spanish, let alone English.
Yeah.
And so that multi-generation, also the grandparents with the younger ones learning English and reading these simple books.
Yeah. And you called it, I'm going to go back just very quickly because you had some fantastic quotes. And one of them that really caught my eye was, presumably this is from a caregiver, a participating caregiver. She said, I'm learning to read my native language along with my granddaughter and her bilingual books. And it seems so simple, but so moving to me.
Yes.
And so I just really love it. And also, of course, the quote above that's referring to a child with dyslexia, which can be so frustrating for children, when they're trying to read, and is so often not diagnosed or misdiagnosed as well. So,
and they can't read as easily on iPads. So
exactly.
having those books make it much easier for them.
So that's all from our presenters. I've seen some questions popping up in the chat box. And so I'm going to see, I encourage you, please feel free, you can come off mute, or you can drop your questions in the chat box, but I'm going to turn it over now to Carolyn to kind of navigate through the chat box for us to see if we've got questions for our presenters.
Sure. One of the questions, and that was partially answered, Peggy, you talked about working with local experts, but one of the questions is about how do you choose the books, and what books do you buy and what books do you have donated? And any of the three of you, three projects, please feel free to respond.
And surveyed with our 3 libraries because they could get discounts, and Scholastic books in particular were very well known. The Bob books because of the phonics, the hardback books that were bilingual because of our area. And they had some of these books that had been destroyed through use. So they were so happy. And we had one little boy that came in that never read because there was too many words. He saw these large print books that didn't have chapters and had some pictures, but they were chapter books. He sat down and grabbed 5 of them because he wanted to read. So that really inspired us to pick the right ones.
And Jeff or Bill, do you want to talk a little bit about how your books are selected?
Yes, so we use Scholastic as well, but for this grant, we needed to use First Books, and I consulted with our early childhood teachers and gave them a list of available titles and asked them to pick the books that they liked, that they thought would be best, and then did some educated guessing on my own as to what to buy.
Super.
We also picked out books from Thornhill Press, as well as Lakeshore Books, in case people want other suppliers.
I'd like to thank Tamsin for putting us on to First Books, because we happened to order them in December and got some kind of a discount that a corporation had sponsored, and that really gave us a boost. It was wonderful. They were a good source.
Yeah, they're great. And they've also, I like the way they've redone their website to include collections. And so they've got like a diversity, equity, and inclusion section, a Latinx section, a section on, women in history or women in STEM. I used to be a public educator. I used to work for a school district. We never had money. So First Book, if you aren't aware, it's a nonprofit that is really about making books available for sale. They're not for free, they're for sale, but they are drastically marked down, like $1, $3, that kind of stuff. So if you haven't checked them out, First Book, they're a great resource.
One other thing I'd like to mention is that we recapture any books that are not delivered by the post office, because if people don't forward their imagination library books, they don't give the post office a new address, they sit there. And so we recapture them, remove the sticker with the address, and reuse those.
Resourceful. One of the other questions, or another question that's in the chat box, is asking about using flyers, bookmarks, pamphlets. How do you promote the project? Peggy, you spoke a lot about the outreach and using any way possible to reach the community. Some other suggestions or recommendations on reaching the community, making them aware of the program?
Word of mouth seems to be doing very well also. And we don't have a birthing hospital, so we register pregnant women, registering their children, and then 2 weeks after the estimated birth, I call to make sure the baby didn't change its name, because I want to make sure everything was healthy, because when they get these books. And I think that has improved a lot because people are now calling us. I'm expecting a baby. Can I register? Word of mouth.
Mm-hmm.
Our local newspaper has done no fewer than 4 articles on the LORE project. So a partner, we consider the editor a partner in this. She's been so supportive.
We are also listed on the Arkansas Resorts Guide. So, and that's a little publication that's in all the Department of Health and Services. So they can see where they can get free books from that little guide too.
Nice. Nice.
It's wonderful. If you haven't already, I wonder if I know that I've seen some folks saying, how can we get in touch, you know, with you? And I think Bill's contact information is already in the chat. But Peggy and Jeff and Carol, if you guys would be willing, would you mind putting your contact information in the chat so that as folks, if they have follow-up questions, they can reach out to you and know how to contact you? One last call for any questions before I know that we are at time, but I've got a colleague who we've got something very exciting that we are working on here at SAVE that we're hoping will connect some amazing local leaders such as yourselves. So I'm going to pause here for any last questions before I invite my good colleague, Lindsay Lockman-Doherty, to talk about the Rural Learning Exchange. And yes, you all will get a copy of this recording. We'll share that out after, along with a copy of the slides.
Yep.
Oh no, there it is. Sorry. Okay, Lindsay.
Hi everyone. Such a delight to be with you all today. Thank you so much for your ongoing work, these amazing partnerships, and just really inspiring commitment to children and families in your community. I can't say enough. Tamsin and I glow about getting to even get glimpses into your all's work. So thank you so much. Just super quick, I wanted to share that we are in the midst of developing. It's a website called the Rural Learning Exchange, and we're really in the midst of developing this, so it's not launched yet. We're hoping in next year to launch it, but it would be a place that we are aspiring to bring folks such as yourselves, your many partners that you've talked about in your community, together for opportunities for peer learning, exchange, to really highlight some of the work that you all are doing, and to provide opportunities for rural communities to learn from champions of early learning in other places across the country. Many of you are doing remarkable things, and we don't want others to have to recreate the wheel, but to really learn from what you're doing and look what might be replicable in their communities. So we have the opportunity, I'll share after this call with Tamsin, an invitation for a few folks to just come onto this site. You can poke around, and then we're offering different ways for people to provide feedback. This is helpful to me. This was confusing. I'd love more of this. You could do an online survey. We'll meet some small focus groups, or you can just email us feedback. And we have a very small $100 Scholastic gift cards that we're hoping to offer folks that are able to come and share their feedback. Really want to make sure whatever is launched in the coming year is actually helpful and, and meet your all's needs. So we'll follow up after, but just wanted to share that this resource is under development, but we would just really value the feedback and insights of folks such as yourselves doing this amazing work. Well, thank you.
Thanks, Lindsay. And thanks again to all of our presenters and to Carolyn for helping pull this together and work with folks to get their presentations pulled together. Thanks for bearing with us through some tech issues and some delay, emails disappearing, slides disappearing. Who knows what's going on? You would think that by 2023 we would have this figured out, but apparently not. I get challenged every day. But Carolyn, any closing words before we say goodbye to everyone?
Just again to say thank you to Carol and Jeff, Bill and Peggy for your presentations and pulling all of this together. And you know, these were three really outstanding
Mhm.
examples, but there were 11 projects that were
Mhm.
involved this year, and 10 that were involved last year. And the work that's being done by Rotarians and that's being able to be facilitated by Rotarians, because of the support of Save the Children, is just amazing and hugely appreciated. When we talk about Rotary grants, and I do a lot of work on international grants and global grants, we talk about impact and looking at the impact that our work has on the community. And this, I mean, those grants are large multi-thousand-dollar grants, that we're doing internationally and oftentimes in our own backyard. But I can't imagine that any of them have any greater impact than what we're doing
Mhm.
through these local grants. Certainly the collaboration and the partnership that you folks are doing within your communities is admirable, and certainly to get the word out about what Rotary does and what Save the Children does is really impressive and very important. So thank you for your service to your communities. Thank you for being a part of this webinar today. And again, many thanks to Save the Children for their support of what Rotary does in our communities through literacy.
Thank you,
You're
Carolyn.
welcome.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Samson.
Great to see you all.
You too. Okay, we're done. Well,